Check, check, check. Wednesday, I awoke between the breasts of a perfectly inviting stranger. After an awkward moment of silence, I offered an ignorant smile, a kiss on the cheek, and then an indifferent farewell. Apparently this is customary in New Orleans the day after Fat Tuesday, as she offered the same unaffected grace with no interest in my identity or next destination. The morning air smelt of lost innocence and bourbon as I wandered the streets, trying to trace my steps or more, my stumbles from the preceding evening. Sin is supposed to have been filtered from the body on this day, and a renewal of piety is meant to occur. Of course, this is Louisiana, or more so, this is New Orleans, where all the names have tattoos and the tattoos have faces. And behind those faces, those deprecating glares that falsely advertise sincerity, there is always an ulterior motive. The only trustworthy adversaries left are the shadows, and perhaps the wordless gospel sounding from the cardboard stages of displaced blues musicians, the revelry of Cajun saxophones, the soft inspirations of the hopeful, and the somber lamentations of the hopeless. Either way, I suppose it's life in a balance. All actions of the lost are counteracted by the found, but the lingering question is always, who is who? So, all right, those are the opening paragraphs to the novel Me and Bobby McGee here from the first chapter is titled The Day After Fat Tuesday. And my name is Chad Coenson, and I am the muse's vessel. And I say this instead of author for a couple reasons. One, when I write, I truly do feel like I'm transcending reality a lot of times, and that there's, something possessing me and working through me. Now, arguably, this is due to the number of performance-enhancing substances I tend to imbibe when I write, which has led me to the conclusion, one of which is alcohol, which has led me to the conclusion that the reason they refer to booze as spirit is because if you drink enough of it, you feel like you're channeling them. So, additionally, I like having a muse that works through me because, I often get the question with my writing, well, how do you come up with this shit? And I can honestly say, I don't know. And then as well, if someone doesn't like it or they're highly offended by what I write, I can say, well, I didn't do it. So anyhow, what is Me and Bobby McGee about? Well, it's a socio-political satire about a former CIA assassin turned professional alcoholic whose vices lead him down this path of peril where he ends up owing quite a bit of money to a illicit underground group that specializes in universal cures for laziness. And it uses this as a catalyst to talk about a lot of things like greed and apathy, and corporate America, and human commoditization in the modern world, but all with a very humorous slant and humorous tone. So one of the most common questions I get is where did the title come from? Was it inspired by the song? And the answer is yes. Actually, the title was inspired by the Chris Christopherson song, Me and Bobby McGee. Many people, believe it was written by Janis Joplin, but those of you that are familiar with the original version of the song know that Bobby McGee was actually a woman. And as is the lead female character in the novel, Me and Bobby McGee, I wouldn't call her a protagonist or antagonist, as I wouldn't call anyone in this book one or the other. They all walk a very fine line of anti-hero. But the real reason that the title was inspired by that song was due to the line, freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose, which is something that's meant a lot to me throughout my life. But also in the novel, it's a theme, the concept of freedom is examined in many ways. The many angles and the many degrees of freedom are what we kind of look at in this book. And one of which has to do with what I referred to before as universal cures for laziness, which we find out is actually a white baby slave trade. Let that sink in for 1 second. And that's actually one of the major plot twists in the book that you find, but the book's been out long enough now where there's plenty of reviews and spoilers in the reviews, so I'll give you that one, but nothing else. Okay, but what I will tell you is how I came up with that idea, despite the muse. I was living in Southern California several years back, and at the time I was working in corporate America selling computerized widgets, and I swear everyone I talked to, the first question out of their mouth was not how are you or what's your name, it was what do you do? What do you do? And it was like I had to give my resume to qualify to speak to them. And I was like, shit, I don't respond well to the shallow aspects of society. So I started having fun with it, and people would ask me what I do, and I say, well, I smuggle white babies into Mexico and sell them into slavery. And you would be amazed at the number of unaffected responses I got to that. It was like, I mean, granted, a lot of people smile and nod at the crazy person. I understand that, and a lot of people don't listen to you when you talk anyway. So, but at the same time, at the same time, it was just amazing, like the level of apathy and a level of just like, oh, acceptance in what I was saying. And it dawned on me, I was like, holy shit, what if I wasn't kidding? Like, what if this is what I was doing and this is how the world is reacting to it? It's like, there's an idea for a book. And then, you know, people say, well, why white babies? Well, we're not going to get into that right now, but let's just say this book is also about karma. Anyhow, but with that in mind, you know, there's serious subject matters in the book, but again, it's all done in a humorous fashion and intentionally. And it's, you know, to me, it's so hard to have a serious conversation with people because we're all so defensive about our views and our beliefs, and no one wants to, you know, no one wants to, every discussion every debate turns into an argument. And I found that satire and humor are such a disarming way to communicate. And so that's why you know, I've always loved the genre and those that work in it, and that's really where I work as well. And so, you know, in thinking that way, the main character in this book, whose eyes we see the book through, is a guy named Kesey Cypher. And like I said, he's this former CIA assassin. But and the thing about him is he's you know, he's an alcoholic because he's drinking away his past, and it's not because he's killed a lot of people. It's because he got canned and he can't anymore. So his moral code is very, very limited, let's say, and he's very detached from humanity. And so when he encounters certain situations, such as white baby slave trades and stuff, his mode of thinking and the way he reacts is different than us good people out there in a lot of ways. And so I'd like to read another section and just give you guys a little insight into kind of the mind of Kesey really quick. All right. Some nights I lie awake wondering if we've really got it all figured out, or if we're just so fucking far behind that any progress seems revolutionary. I stare out my window above the pitiless glow of street lamps and all-night sin sanctuaries, looking out at the expired light of deceased stars, wondering if perhaps we're just the last to go. The other planets in our solar system allow for no life to exist. They remain barren deserts, empty graveyards for astronomy's wet dreams. They are homes only hurricanes and cyclones could love, and yet every decade, someone has new evidence, new reasons, new guesses for why there's life out there. To the dreamer, it's hope for something wondrous, something not yet written about in a textbook, a new twist to that old and overused plot. But to the realist, and to those of us that know why these projects get funded, it's just another attempt at finding a new home for humanity once we this place up beyond all distraction. Which gets me back to the original question, what if we're just the last to know? What if there were other civilizations on these other planets that were destroyed long before we began exploring them? What if these signs of life scientists claim to find aren't signs of life, but signs of death? Not new wave space alien links, but archaeological artifacts meant to remind us that just because we think we're the high and mighty brilliant minds of the universe, some other arrogant species already thought the same way, and they have since become extinct. So, that's, you know, that's kind of some insight into how our main character thinks, and you know, it's all through his perspective that we see the book unfold. That in mind, one of the most exciting things about this book right now is it actually got optioned for a feature film. So it's in the process right now. It should start shooting at the end of the year, the beginning of next. So very exciting. It's being done by a local director too, a guy named Eric Demarath. You can check him out online. He's done a bunch of great work. So you can look for that in the future, as well as him and I worked actually on a short film last year for the 48-hour film project, and it ended up winning the Audience Choice Award there. It was a film called Jive Genie, and it's blaxploitation grindhouse, a lot of fun stuff in 7 minutes. But what's it called? We're working on expanding that into an internet series or whatever the technical term is for that now, that I don't know. But anyhow, and then in addition, I've got 2 more books in the works. I've got another socio-political satire, completely different story from this one, that I think will be a lot of fun though. And then I've got a book of poetry that I'm actually going to release hopefully before the end of the year as well. And So with that in mind, I just want to close with something different that you can't read in the book, a little preview of the poetry book real quick. Am I okay on time?
Yep.
You're doing good? Okay. Okay, cool. All right, so I'll leave you with this and I'll shut up and I'll be hanging around, having drinks, and hopefully we'll see you then. So this is called The Alarm Clock. The morning came like a subway train as I lay sleeping on the tracks, interviewing pastoral rainbow dreams to substitute for facts. The oasis march of wingless birds who manifest a course of flight beyond the boundaries of the day, 6 stories shy of night. 50 fearful feet to fall from cliff tops or from clouds. Always swallow your food for thought before you speak aloud. And this Dr. Seuss non-fiction book, the Bible of the brain, claims that life is, well, hot as hell, but gives no recipe for rain. So in search of someone's secret stash of climate and control, I lost my grip on everything and fell 10,000 feet below. In caves of crimson, I woke again, just in time to learn to read. Figured I'd start my education now and pass the genes on when I breed. Eclectic etchings of a better day ran radiant as the sun. In time, I fear I loathe too much, but there's no mercy in what's been done. A patchwork quilt of memories that bleeds each time I breathe. A holy ghost of kindred souls that writes letters to the breeze. And when faded facts of this fictitious world proclaim it's time to rise, you can guarantee I'll read all the books before I dare go choosing sides. And why not just take the beaten path and leave the wandering to frost? To deprive the soul of mystery is a mental holocaust. The only way to truly live is the first attempt to die. It leaves you with what matters most in the confines of the sky. I'm 30 years past ignorance. I sure as hell do miss the bliss. But the secret to my survival lies within my lover's kiss. It seems my seams have begun to tear, but she mends them from within. Dances on misty mountaintops and tosses woes into the wind. And I, for one, am only that, unless you feel the flow. And then as all will rewrite the world, learning as we go. Well, the jester leaves one final thought, for he's melted by the moon. A king, they say, can make a storm a day, but only fools can make monsoons. So I'll assume the role and bring the floods until the waters steer me back. You know, the morning came like a subway train as I lay sleeping on the tracks.